Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome evening here on this glorious September the 27th. Just a great day of college football wrapping up. Obviously got Georgia and Alabama about to kick off. That should be a dandy. Had upsets galore today as well. Notre Dame boat raced. Who was it they boat raced? I can't remember who they played now, but Notre Dame gets the dub today. That's nice to see them continue on their winning streak. You've seen a lot of athletes, a lot of football players that are going to be playing in the NFL here real soon. Love just kind of following college football, which essentially is the minor leagues for the NFL. It's a lot of fun. So on tonight's show, though, guys, we're going to continue with our game plan segment. All right. And we're going to dive into the Packers defense against the Cowboys offense and talk about some key analytics, maybe where the rankings lie, who has the edge in each category. And we'll talk some specific X's and O's as well on what the Cowboys like to do to attack defenses. So you should come away from this video, this live stream, with a little bit better understanding of how the Cowboys like to attack defenses and what the Packers are up against there tomorrow evening as we get set for them to go down into Jerry World and take on the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. I know the chat is absolutely packed in here. Appreciate everybody hanging out with me. Obviously, it's going to be a solo night unless one of the guys jump in here a little later. I know Tim's taking care of some stuff with family. And, of course, Jacob's out doing God knows what. Hopefully, he's not into clink. And then, of course, we've got Emilio. He typically off on the weekends, just hanging out with the fiance or the wife now. I apologize, the wife now. So with that being said, though, we're going to dive into the game plan. Before we do, if y'all would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning in to PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your evening. We're not experts here. We're not insiders. We're damn sure not media members. We are fans just like you talking Packers on the daily as we get geared up for this Packers-Cowboys matchup. What you're catching here, if this is your first time tuning in to PTA, is as we go throughout the week, we recap the week before, we do the film breakdown, all that good stuff, and now we're getting into really, really deep into the game plan of how the Packers should approach this game against the Cowboys. So I'm going to try to keep up with the chat. I'll try to go a little bit slower in here this evening, but as we dive into the information, you guys know how it is when we go solo. But I see far too many to call out. But I know we got the regulars in here for sure. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome evening. Let's jump into it. All right, so the game plan. And I've really enjoyed putting this together. It's been a lot of fun. Just kind of, for me, it's learning. It's like an exercise, right? These are the things that I always did as a fan, at least since around 2009, 2010. I would kind of take the upcoming opponent and I would treat it as if I was on the coaching staff. Hey, how would I attack these teams? How would I play them on defense? How would I try to attack their defense on offense? All those things. And what we've done now is just added this into the Patreon group. So if you guys want this content on the side, you get it ahead of time. Just go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. Also gets you entered into giveaways in the future as well. I apologize for this crack here. Sorry. Got to get the soda rolling here so we can keep the voice going as we're flying solo. So again, patreon.com. If you're a member there, $3 tier, we do giveaways as well. At the post-game show tomorrow after the Packers-Cowboys game, we're going to be giving away an autographed Lucas Van Ness rookie card, just a way for us to give back to those who are supporting the Patreon group, as well as YouTube. If you'd rather just join as a member on YouTube, you're free to do that. We also include them into some of the fun, the games, the random giveaways, all that stuff as well. But Patreon's where you're going to get your most bang for the buck. Let's get into it. So quick little recap. I mean, not really a recap, but we already hit the offensive side of the game plan, right? We talked about the coverage tendencies, all those things. And we may roll back to this here in a minute as we dive into the defensive game plan against the Cowboys. We talked about establishing the run early. You just see some of the key analytics here, the stats to kind of back up the way we would approach this game against the Cowboys. So let's jump into the defensive game plan. All right, so first things first, what do the Cowboys do on offense, right? And it all starts with personnel. Personnel, when you hear us say 11 personnel, right? That's one running back, one tight end. That's where the 1 of 11 comes from. And of course, that means it's 3 wide receiver set. Why is that important? That's going to trigger our nickel 4-2-5 look most of the time. Sometimes we may lean into a 4-3 if it's a run heavy team out of 11 personnel, but 9 times out of 10, that's going to trigger the nickel 4-2-5 look. So the Cowboys run 11 personnel 74.2% of the time. Okay, so they are an 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver set heavy team, hands down. Second most personnel they run is 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. They run that 11% of the time. Then 21 personnel, 7.2% of the time. Then 22, 3.4% of the time. Okay, so they don't very, very, very rarely do they go with an 0-1 set, which is essentially no running back, 1 tight end, 4 wide receivers, spread everything out type look. Now, they may go with an empty spread look out of an 11 personnel. I'm sure they do that quite often. But nonetheless, the point here is you should see our nickel defense on the field quite often. However, there's a little caveat this week, right? You've got CeeDee Lamb that's going to be injured. Okay. You've also got a couple starting offensive linemen that are injured. So maybe the Cowboys say, hey, let's press into 12 a little bit so we can have 2 tight ends chip a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised if you see that 11% maybe jump up to a 15% for this coming week. We'll see how that falls into place as well. But again, 11 personnel is predominantly what they run on offense. Let's talk about what their favorite plays have been. Okay. Now listen, this is strictly in the passing game. I didn't spend much time at all on the running game. So I wanted to highlight, and this is how I like to scout teams. And I even like to self-scout the Packers. Being a Packer fan, I call it self-scouting. Obviously, I'm not on the staff, or else they would have a much suckier record. But I like to look and go, okay, where are their explosive plays coming from? Who are the players making those explosive plays? What are the formation, the sets, the personnel that they're making those plays on as well? Okay, so what I've identified is 3 players. Now, I'm going to mention CeeDee Lamb, even though he's out for this game against the Packers. And the reason I'm going to mention him is because they'll probably try to fill someone else into that role and still accomplish the same thing they've been doing up to this point, because they've had a pretty effective passing offense. Dak Prescott's, I think, the second highest rated quarterback or graded quarterback according to PFF. Now, I think he's thrown 3 interceptions. I want to say 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. I could be wrong on those numbers. We'll try to dive into them here on the back side of the show. However, this is the first play that came to mind here. You're going to notice all these are from the Giants game. For the most part, they are. It isn't that I just went and watched the Giants game. These were the most explosive plays from all 3 games early in the season here. And you like to look at the most recent way that they're attacking defenses. That seems to be the hot hand that they will continue to play. It just so happened to be against the Giants. No surprise there, right? So the first play, 12 ace nasty, 26 fake, strike, Y leak, U safe, and it's a 33-yard pass to CeeDee Lamb. So again, what is that 12 ace nasty? This is one of the rare times, like we said, 11% of the time they're in 12 personnel. Notice they're in a balanced 12 look, right? So you got 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. They're in nasty splits inside the numbers, and they're going to run a 26 fake. So they're kind of showing an outside stretch play on here. We're not going to roll the video for copyright purposes, but we've drawn the play out here just to give you an idea of how they're going to try to attack the Packers defense. So again, 26 fake, that just means 2 is the running back, is the first number. 6 means they're going off tackle, outside run right. The even numbers are to the right. If this was to the left, then you would call it a 27. It would be the play call here, a 27 fake. So they're going to fake an outside stretch. It's not a boot action, not a rollout. It's just a deep set so that Dak Prescott can kind of get set and deliver the pass. So strike, what's strike? Strike concept is really simple. On one side of the formation, you have a go route or a deep route. It could be a post. It could be a corner. But what makes it a strike concept is on one side of the formation, you got a receiver going deep, and on the other, you've got a climb or a crosser coming across. And the goal there is to stretch the defense vertically on that side and then hit the second window. Although there is a first window, you could hit that crosser in, that climb in, right? And the reason I'm saying crosser and climb, everybody uses a little bit different terminology when you're coaching football. A climb route is essentially a deep crosser route. Okay. Some people call it climb because there's some choice aspects. So you're just climbing through the defense to find the open spot. But predominantly, it's going to look mostly like a crosser, if that makes sense. So again, that's the strike concept. The go on the left side with the 1, and then you've got the crosser or the climb off the opposite side. You're clearing out deep, and then you're trying to hit the space that's void underneath. They nail CD Lamb on this play, the crosser here, for 33 yards. Now, the reason I mention that, once again, what have we noticed about Hafley's defense this year? Early in this 3-week season so far, Hafley's shown a lot of cover one man, not more than any other defense, but just he started off last week was a lot of cover one man, and that put him up in, I think, the 20 percentile, something like that, in terms of his defensive play calls. So I mention that because when you're playing cover one man, the number one beater for that are crossing routes, in my opinion. That's the way we typically attack defenses, which surprised me last week. And one of the reasons why I felt like the offense struggled for Matt LaFleur was we didn't have a whole lot of crossing concepts. We were running a lot of deep digs and outs along with it. Now, when you got a quarterback that has the arm strength that Jordan Love does, he still, to the best of my knowledge, has the fastest clocked thrown pass in the next gen era. I think it was at 61 miles per hour, the seam shot. The seam shot, what I call the base throw, the base shot, last year against Tucker Kraft. To Tucker Kraft against the Houston Texans. So when you've got that kind of arm strength, then you maybe want to attack cover one man outside shoulder because you got a quarterback with the arm strength. I personally didn't like the passing game plan last week because you didn't see a whole lot of crossers. Crossers is when you got two crossing routes, if that makes sense. So you may see that here in a minute. So again, 12 ace nasty, 26 fake strike, Y leak. The Y is just going to block and then leak out here. That's typically Ferguson for them. And the U is staying safe, the block, so you've got a 6-man protection. And then, of course, the running back after the 26 fake is just going to run a little shoot route, kind of sit down outside and be a check down for Dak. He hammered it to CD Lamb there for 33 yards. Let's move on to the second play. This play, you got 11 gun, Trey Wright, 94-49, T safe. All right. Now, what does all that mean? In 11, Trey Wright, you got one running back, one tight end, and we call it Trey because there's 3 targets to the right, one of which is the tight end. If that was 3 wide receivers and this guy by himself up here up top was a tight end, it would be called trips right because it's 3 wide receivers as opposed to 2 wide receivers and a tight end. That's the difference between trips and Trey. I'm always going to explain that because it's important to understand how they try to position the Y, depending on how effective the Y is as a flex player, essentially as a wide receiver, or if they like to put him by himself in an isolation play like the Patriots like to do a lot with Gronk back in the day. So the play call, 11 gun, Trey Wright, 94-49. Guys, that's just the route tree, okay? You got a 9 route, which is a go. You got a 4, which is a curl. You got a 4, which is a curl. And then you got a 9, that's another go. And the T is staying safe here, okay? Which means he's staying in a block, another 6-man protection. So you're already seeing the tendency here. We showed 12. Now we're in 11. They're showing a Trey Wright look. And what they've got is a couple of high-low reads here. They're working the middle of the field underneath on curls, and they've got a couple shot routes and 9 routes. But the thing that's common here is you're keeping a 6-man protection in both of the first plays we caught. This ends up getting checked down to Ferguson for 18 yards on the curl route. The thing I noticed about Ferguson, I believe, I could be wrong, if I remember correctly, though, this was the longest gain he's had all year. Now, we've talked about Ferguson gets a lot of targets from Dak, especially now that CD is going to be hurt because I think they did that a lot last week once CD left the game. So it's important to understand, well, what's Ferguson do? He's kind of checked down Charlie. And I know that's going to upset a lot of Wisconsin fans because that's Barry Alvarez's grandson, I believe, if I understood correctly. So I'm not trying to disrespect. That's just how they utilize him. I'll tell you something else. We do that with Tucker Kraft, so it's not necessarily a shot. We love him on shallow crosses, drags, leaks, things like that, right? So in this case, 11 gun, Trey Wright, 94-49, go, curl, curl, go, T safe, Ferguson for 18 yards right here out of the Trey Wright Y position, okay? So there's the second play. Now let's move on to the next target, which is George Pickens, okay? Pickens will probably be your leading receiver now for them. He's going to be the guy that at least that's what they want to do predominantly. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to put him in CD Lamb's old spot and just have him kind of, and then next man up, let them operate as if they're George Pickens. Now, the problem is George Pickens and CD Lamb have 2 different skill sets, right? So CD Lamb is more of your slot receiver that's going to run the crossers and things like that. However, when you watch this play right here, and not watch, but we draw it up, you're going to see they're in 12 gun, dub nasty crossers, double leak flats, okay? T safe. So again, 12 gun. In this case, they're in a gun set. They're in a nasty split. Dubs means 2 by 2. You got 1, 2 on the left, 1, 2 on the right with a sidecar right as well. That's called dubs or doubles. We call it dubs because it's a lot easier to say, less syllables, right? So this passing concept is going to be 12 gun, dub nasty, crossers, double leak, and both those leaks are going to be the flat. Okay. Now there's a little bit of a play action look, but they kind of meld it in. So I didn't mention, but it could have been like a 21 fake or a 22 fake. I didn't feel like that's what they were trying to accomplish. The running back just kind of puts his hands out, steps up, and he's blocking. Once again, what are you seeing though? You're seeing a 6-man protection. It starts off as an 8-man protection, but then you got the double leak, meaning the tight ends are going to leak out in the flat here. Here's the crosser concept we were talking about. Okay. So now we've seen strike that attacks cover 1 man pretty effectively. And now we're seeing crossers that affects or attacks cover 1 man pretty effectively. That's why I'm saying let's steer clear of the cover 1 man this week. Let's make them read the defense. Let's go with a little cover 6 match. Let's go with a little cover 3 look. Let's kind of stick to that this week. And also, when you're in a zone defense, if you kind of erase the match for a second and you just play spot drop right out of cover 3, or if you want to play a little country quarter, something like that, you've got your eyes on Dak all day long in case he tries to scramble, right? So just wanted to mention that. Now, again, the crosser, this right here was George Pickens up top, the 1 left. He's going to run a crosser, and it's almost like a deep mesh concept that you see here. He ends up hitting George Pickens here for 27 yards. So again, what's the purpose of showing you guys these play diagrams? I watched every snap of the Cowboys just once. I didn't get a chance to watch it the second time through, but I went and watched all 3 games, all 22 film, and tried to pick out the things that really stood out to me. Well, you see they run 11 most of the time, but 2 of these plays that we're highlighting actually came out of 12 personnel. It's important to note because this week you're probably going to press into 12 a little bit more than you have in the past with CeeDee Lamb out of the lineup. And you can darn sure bet you're going to be doing these chip releases here, at least at a minimum, with the way the Packers pass rush has been effective this week. So again, just wanted to point it out. Right here, you got a strike concept where they hit an explosive. Here you got a curl. That's one of the check downs that they use to Ferguson. And then, of course, you got crossers, the big hitter here to George Pickens. So it goes on to say the Packers defense must capitalize on the Cowboys' injuries and create chaos with their dominant front 7. The key here, guys, is going to be to create pressure on Dak Prescott. I would rather them do that with 7-man coverage and just rush 4. I think we can get to him with 4. With the way Rashawn Gary's playing, leading the league in sacks, Micah Parsons is drawing all kinds of attention when he is on the field. Lucas Van Ness is having one of his better years. I think he's grading out somewhere around 72, 73, something like that. Let's just try to get pressure with 4. And if we're not hitting home by halftime, then adjust. But let's make Dak throw into traffic all freaking day long. Let's play a little more zone than we have here in the first 3 weeks so you can keep eyes on Dak and make sure he doesn't scramble on you. And, of course, you're looking to stop the run. I don't think they're going to come out. I don't think Schottenheimer's just going to come out and just wing it all over the yard. I think he'll try to establish the run. I have faith that our defense can stop that. That's the other thing. If you come out and you play with a spur look, meaning one of the safeties into the box, then you play zone, you could still have a cover 3 or a cover 6 match look and have an extra spur in the box to help stop the run. And again, you just don't want to neglect, stopping the run first and foremost. All right. But number 1, create concept pressure on Dak Prescott. Here's the passing offense yards per pass attempt. As you can see here, let's see where we rank. We rank 4th in the league at 8.5 yards per pass attempt. That's our passing offense. Dallas is 18th at 6.4. So what's that tell you? They're doing a little more dinking, or as they say, dacking and dunking, right? I've heard them call it dink and dunk Dak many times before. They're looking to check it down a little more than the Packers are. These aren't air yards, but typically when you're gaining more yards, yes, it means you're more effective. But we know Jordan likes to throw the ball down the field a lot more often than most teams do. All right, so with that, let's move along now to quarterback rating or quarterback grade, I should say, according to PFF. All right, Sam Darnold leads the league right now at 91.9 PFF grade. Dak Prescott is 2nd in the league at 90.2. Jordan Love, 9th in the league at 79.6. Now, why do we mention that? The fact that Dak has such a high grade tells me that he's making the right decisions on the field. Now, even though those yards per pass attempt are lower than Jordan Love's, you see the grade is higher. To me, that tells me he's being a little more effective playing within the scheme. But again, a lot more dinking and dunking and probably less explosives in that regard. So, with that being said, you look at that matchup there. Dak Prescott, guys, he's the Tuesday player this week. We got to stop Dak Prescott. We got to stop the passing game. If we come out and we neglect to run a touch and they end up beating us by running the ball, for me, that's a lot easier to live with than to just go out there and go, nope, we don't think Dak can beat us when all signs are pointing to him having a great year. That makes sense. So I would rather them play left-handed, force them to play left-handed, i.e., lean on the running game, than just go out there and be too aggressive in our run fits and let Dak Prescott wing it all over the yard and rack up explosives. All right. So unleash Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary. The most critical element of the game plan is leveraging Micah Parsons against his former team. Parsons' motivation will be high, and his consistent pass rushing pressure, 15 quarterback pressures this season, will force Prescott into mistakes. Now, you'll notice here we mentioned the pressures, right? I want to say that Parsons is leading the league in pressures, I believe. Regardless, he's leading the Packers in pressures, no doubt. But Rashawn Gary's leading the Packers in sacks with 4.5. So, again, let's get pressure with 4 with those guys. Break out that cheetah package. You go with the cover 3 zone. Anything that's 3rd and 6 or higher, meaning a 3rd and long look like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 13. Let's get them in those spots to where they have to pass in those 3rd and long looks, and let's just get pressure with 4. That should be the goal here. You'll probably see a little touch spine going on with our one tech just to keep Dak from scrambling all over us as well. So if you do want to go to a man coverage look, again, I'm not saying we should, but Hafley's got to mix that in. You're not just going to run 100% zone all night. I'm not saying you should. If you play man coverage on those man coverage calls, have that one tech, whether it's Carl Brooks or Kobe Wooden, line up in the one tech, basically meaning the A gap in between the center and the guard, run that touch spy, let him engage with both blockers, keep his eye on Dak, and then you're essentially playing a mid spy to make sure if Dak tries to scramble up the middle, you got a defender ready to smack him in the mouth. All right. So Devontae Wyatt, 2 sacks on the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a decent game here with them having offensive linemen out as well. Micah Parsons with 1.5 sacks, LVM with a half sack, Carl Brooks with a half sack, Edgerrin Cooper a half sack, Baron Sorrell with a half sack as well. One thing we did against Dak when we played them in that playoff game that I specifically remember is we had our slot corner, which was at the time Keyshawn Nixon. He was playing a hook curl. And he played curl flat as well. But in that hook curl, it's almost like it was a built-in spot. So if you want to fire a backer somewhere else and you want to have that nickel back or that star position kind of play a little bit deeper spy look, that's another way that you can keep Dak contained. I remember Keyshawn playing that hook curl spy and then attacking Dak as he scrambled right. Dak had no idea that he was going to blitz on him right? Because it was a design spy, and he ended up making the tackle or the sack in that specific spot. So exploit the weak offensive line. The Cowboys are missing key offensive linemen Tyler Booker and Cooper Beebe, which will open up opportunities for Parsons and the rest of the defensive front to pressure Prescott. So again, you look at the offensive grades, their highest graded offensive lineman, which was Tyler Booker, okay? He was grading out a 65.0. He is out this game. Right. If I remember correctly, you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I'm pretty sure Booker was out. We should probably let me do this real quick. Might be a little bit of dead time, but I just want to double check. Let me make sure that we've got that final injury report because I don't want to give you guys misinformation here. Let's make sure that he is out. I want to say he went on let's see, Tyler Booker is definitely out, okay? And I want to say that Beebe went on IR last week. You guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I believe that was correct. Yeah, Booker and Beebe out. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that, buddy. There you go. I love the chat, man. You guys are awesome. Thank y'all for looking it up. So Booker out, right? Next, you got Brock Hoffman, a 63.1. He's their center, okay? Next, you got Terrence Steele, tackle, 60.8. TJ Bass, minimal snaps, it looks like, but a 60.0. Tyler Smith at guard, 56.0. Cooper Beebe, even though he's one of their better offensive linemen, he was grading out pretty bad this year, 53.9. He may have been banged up before he went on IR, to be honest with you. And then Tyler Gotton, you guys remember, was an offensive lineman that was graded right around where we had Jordan Morgan there, first-round grade on our boards. He's got a 45.9. So you see, this offensive line, guys, I know the Packers don't have any room to talk. Our offensive line's played like cheeks the first 3 weeks, but you could see how this would be just rush forward, man. There's no reason to try to simulate pressure and bring all these exotic blitzes. Let's make Dak second guess throwing that ball on the first and second read, knowing there's 7 in coverage, and let's get pressure on them. But it starts with stopping the run, obviously. Now, blitz selectively, but effectively. Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't blitz at all. With the Cowboys missing their star receiver, CeeDee Lamb, the Packers can be more aggressive with their blitz packages, especially on third down. So you have room to make a few errors there because they don't have their number one receiver in. Now, George Pickens is the guy you probably want to bend the coverage towards a little bit. What do I mean by that? When we run a cover 6 look, let's just say it's a cover 6 spot drop. Whichever side that George Pickens lines up on, make sure that's your cover 4 side. And for those of you who don't know, a cover 6 is essentially half the field is cover 4, the other half is cover 6. So what I mean is the 2 deep quarters look, that side of the field, the cover 4 side of the cover 6, make sure that's on George Pickens' side. What does that mean? If George Pickens lines up as the X, let's say he's playing X, and they're in a Trey Wright look like we showed you earlier, and then all of a sudden they break the huddle, they come out, they show that formation, and then they call a quick shift, and they bring someone else to the other side and put Pickens on that side. If you had the quarters call on that left side, and now Pickens on the other side of the field, just flip your defense. Let's make sure the quarter stays on Pickens' side. It's not necessarily like, hey, we'll pick the pass off if they throw it there. But when Dak drops back, knowing that we like to run a lot of cover 6 since Jeff Hafley got to Green Bay, he's going to look and see, okay, quarters that side, let me work to the cover 2 side. That's typically what's going to happen. So you take George Pickens out of the equation before Dak even has a chance to throw him the ball. Unless Dak wants to get aggressive and try a shot play or try something to that quarter side, which we welcome that, right? So again, you're forcing the offense to play left-handed. That's the goal here. So, all right, let's talk about the turnover battle. We need to win the turnover battle, guys. You know, turnover differential is probably the most important stat outside of the scoring points and allowing points to be scored, right? That's why we talk about points per play and points per play allowed as the 2 most important statistics when it comes to gambling in the NFL and trying to pick a winner in that regard. Now, turnover differential comes right in behind those 2 statistics, okay? Turnover differential right now, Dallas is in 31st place, tied for 31st in the NFL at minus 1.7 on their turnover differential. So again, when you're talking about a team that turns the ball over a lot, let's put 7 in coverage. Let's give Dak every possible opportunity to turn that ball over, if that makes sense. So just wanted to mention that. Now, moving along, target vulnerable players, all right? After a 4 turnover performance in their loss to the Bears, the Cowboys are susceptible to mistakes. Pressure Prescott into making bad throws and challenge for contested catches to generate turnovers. Try to do it with 4. If you're somehow, some way not hitting home, then bring a 5th. But until they show they can block your front 4 with that 5 or 6 man protection that they want to use, let's just stick with 4. That way you've got 1 extra guy in coverage that you could. The other thing too is you could play like a lock. You know, you could go with like a cover 3 lock, which is essentially, some people call it man lock. Some people will call it lock 3 or lock 2 or lock 1, depending on where their target is that lines up. But let's say George Pickens, let's say they watch the tape. The Packers watch the tape. And I feel like we're giving George Pickens a little too much credit here, but you know, I do feel like he's their best target outside of Ferguson, who's the check down guy. Let's say that you come out and the coaches watch the tape and they go, you know what, man, we got to stop George Pickens. That's number 1. That's top of the priority list, right? If that's the case, then you go out there and you play a cover 3 lock. Everyone's in cover 3, but you got one guy designated in man coverage. And here's the beautiful thing about that. That one guy in man coverage, which would be locked on Pickens. If it's a cover 3 lock, then that means that Pickens is lined up in the 3, count from the outside in. First receiver 1, second receiver 2, whether it's a tight end or not. Third receiver 3. So if he's in the 3, then it'd be cover 3 lock. If he's in the 2, it's cover 3 lock 2, right? If he's in the 1, same thing. Cover 3, 1 lock, or cover 3 lock 1. And what you can do is you can study the analytics and go, what route does George Pickens run the most, and what route do the Cowboys like to attack with him the most, right? So what's he good at, and what do they lean on the most when they're targeting George Pickens? Or it may be a universal number like with CeeDee Lamb, if that's the case, right? Let's say it's a deep dig route. then that lock defender, what you're going to do is bait him into throwing that dig. It doesn't mean you just sit inside leverage and deter them from throwing the dig. It means you know what they like to do. So you try to bait him into throwing that dig. You just got to be careful in the lock coverage because that one guy in man coverage gets so focused on his assignment and he's got his eyes on his work, which would be George Pickens in this case. And you take yourself out of the run fit a little bit. So just got to be aware of that as well. So, all right. Next, you've got forced fumbles with punch technique. With the Cowboys missing key offensive weapons, forcing fumbles will be a momentum killer. Parsons, Cooper, and other defenders should focus on attacking the ball when tackling. Point that out because you guys remember the ball king, right? In camp, would love to see them really, really press into implementing that. Now, again, you don't want to do it at the detriment of missing tackles, but I don't think we're worried about this defense missing much tackles. Let's attack the football. Let's go in there and make sure when they're dinking and dunking to Ferguson like they do, that's what they love to do is just hit him underneath, as Dak is just, checking it down. When you go to attack Ferguson, rally to the ball, and use that punch technique, use that swipe technique. Remember Charles Woodson back in the day, he would literally go in that first arm as he's going to wrap up and tackle. He's punching down at the ball as he's wrapping up to make the tackle. Use that in the peanut punch as much as possible, man. That's what we need to do to force fumbles and win that turnover differential battle, okay? All right, next, contain the remaining playmakers. We've kind of talked about that. It's been the common theme through this whole segment, but let's just talk about the grades here real quick, okay? When you look at the PFF grades, how it sits right now, you got to throw Span Ford kind of out the window, tight end, minimal snaps, 36 offensive snaps, but he is grading out a 93.4, mainly because of his run blocking, okay? So we don't really look at him. His receiving grades, 77.1, it's good, but minimal snaps. Keep an eye on that. That's going to be their second target out of that 12 look, I would imagine. Actually, it looks like you've got Schoonmaker, if I'm saying that right. He's got 68 snaps. So those are your three tight ends as Jake Ferguson. You got Schoonmaker, and then you've got Span Ford. Span Ford's grading not the highest, but he's got the fewest amount of snaps. So you would imagine that grade's probably going to go down if he gets more snaps. However, here it is in order of PFF grade. Kevontae Turpin, wide receiver, 73.5. He's got 91 snaps. So expect Turpin to kind of step up and play alongside George Pickens. So you got to keep an eye on him. Javonte Williams, halfback, right? He'll catch the ball out of the backfield as well. 72.9. He's played 155 snaps. George Pickens, he's the 26th highest graded receiver so far this year. 71.5, 196 snaps. CeeDee Lamb, cross him off the list. Okay, you ain't got to worry about him. He's out. Ryan Flournoy, if I'm saying that right, wide receiver, 67.7, only 35 snaps, not overly concerned there. Miles Sanders, you guys remember he used to play for the Eagles back in the day. Another halfback, 65.0, 58 snaps so far. Jake Ferguson, everybody's talking about Jake Ferguson being all world, right? And I know we got a lot of Wisconsin Badger fans in here. I understand it. I get it. But 61.7, guys, we got three tight ends that are grading out higher than him on our roster. Again, so why is he getting so many targets? Why has he got so many catches? Because they're just checking it down to him. And I'm telling you, these defenses are making sure that Dak doesn't have much to throw over the top too. That's essentially how they're approaching this. So Jake Ferguson, I'm not near as worried about as George Pickens. I'm really not too concerned with George Pickens with the way our coverage is playing. We got one of the best, some of the highest cornerback grades in the entire league between Keyshawn Nix and Carrington Ballantyne, everybody across the board, right? But George Pickens to me is a bigger concern than Jake Ferguson, hands down. So, and then of course, Jalen Tolbert, 60.5 on 150 snaps. So there is your second most wide receiver snaps, right? So Jalen Tolbert, and he's grading out a 60.5. Not overly concerned with him according to the PFF grades here. All right. So let's talk about Jake Ferguson for a second. Bracket, Jake Ferguson, tight end. Jake Ferguson became Prescott's primary target after Lamb's injury. The Packers should use bracket coverage and physically play at the line of scrimmage to limit the impact and force Prescott to look elsewhere. What does that mean? They like to chip a lot, right? Well, there's another way that you can handle that on defense as well. Why not have one of your stack backers on obvious passing downs line up over Ferguson, and as soon as the ball snapped, smack him right in the mouth. I mean, I'm just give him it's not like a lock jam where you're trying to risk holding, but just hit him in the mouth every time he comes off that line. Hit him in the mouth and then have the coverage breaking in behind you as you go on to your assignment. Now, it may be a it may be a bump and run type technique, even with zone, where you're going to hit him and then you're going to fade back into your hook curl zone and you're taking away that skinny to him or what have you. But nonetheless, let's get a little contact on him coming off the line, because if that is, and I think we would all agree that seems to be Dak Prescott's safety blanket underneath his safety valve, when you jam him at the line, most of the time those quarterbacks will kind of look off of him immediately, right? And they'll try to get to another answer to the equation. Or when let's say the read is 1, 2, then come to Ferguson on the check, that's opposite side. Let's say it's a Dubs look, 11 Dubs, and Ferguson's 1 of 2 on the right. And let's say it's a concept like a tosser concept, or even a slot cross where it's go to the slant / cross, then the dig, then come to Ferguson. If you've knocked Ferguson off balance, if you've knocked him off of their timing, then he's not going to be where Dak expects him. That's where you get off on a throw. Even a half a yard, ball gets tipped, interception, that type of stuff. So make sure you're ready to knock him off his mark. Focus on the Cowboys' new targets. With Lamb and 2 offensive linemen out, the Cowboys have turned to new receivers. Defense coordinator Jeff Hafley should emphasize tight coverage and force Prescott to throw into contested windows. Again, the only way you're going to do that is if you neglect the run just a little bit. So you may have to do that in these passing situations, and that'll make you a little vulnerable to a draw. But again, bend but don't break, bend but don't break. Let's wait for him to make the mistake. Let's don't get too aggressive. All right. And again, when you look at our cornerback room, this is what I was talking about, guys. Keyshawn Nixon, 78.4, 6th highest graded corner in the league right now. Carrington Valentine, 77.4, the 11th highest graded cornerback in the league right now. Nate Hobbs, 70.6, the 26th highest graded cornerback in the league. And then Javon Bullard, a 47.7, he's 90th. So Bullard is obviously the weakest link there, according to PFF. I'll let you know when I disagree with PFF. You guys know I do it all the time if you watch the show regularly. I don't disagree with this grade on Javon Bullard. His coverage has not been good. It wasn't good last year. It's not been good early this year. I'm not going to sit here. You guys know I tend to lean toward glass half full. But if you see it, you got to say it. I feel like he's really good in run fits. He's very aggressive in the run game. I love him attacking smoke screens, bubble screens, things like that. But when it comes to just straight up drop back coverage, that's not Bullard's strength. So Bullard's a little banged up, right? He's coming out of concussion protocol. Let me get a double check here on the injury report and see what they finally said. So Javon Bullard was limited. He did not participate Wednesday, limited on Thursday, so he took a step forward, limited on Friday. He's listed as questionable. That means a 50-50 shot of him playing tomorrow night. So with that being said, what I would like to see happen, this is just me personally, I would like to see Bullard sit this game out, okay? And don't risk any further injury with the concussion. If you're not 100%, you're already not playing great football. Let's sit him down, all right? Now, to the best of my knowledge, they only called up Lasita Smith. They signed Brant Banks from the practice squad to play offensive line, and they activated, I think, or called up Lasita Smith, I think is who it was. You guys double-check me there. So that means to the best of my knowledge, they haven't called any corners up. If you guys know, let me know in the chat. However, that's the case. They're probably expecting Javon Bullard to play. I would rather see Nate Hobbs play the slot in our 11 personnel and get Carrington Valentine's butt on the field. Guys, how many times do we have to see Carrington do this? He was tied for the lead in interceptions amongst our cornerbacks last year with 2 with Jair Alexander, right? He actually had 2 red zone interceptions last year. He didn't give up a touchdown all year last year. He's already given up 1 this year, but he didn't give up any last year, the entire season. Let's give him an opportunity. Forget the fact that Javon Bullard was a 2nd-round pick. Throw that out the window. I don't care that Carrington was a 7th-round pick. I was hard on him his rookie year. Valentine played like cheeks. These last year and this early season here, he's playing great football. Get him on the field. So put Nate Hobbs in the slot, have Keyshawn on the outside, along with Carrington on the outside, and you look like one of the best nickel secondaries in the entire league, especially with Xavier McKinney back there, and of course Evan Williams playing good ball as well. So that's how I would like to see them approach this. What will they do? They'll probably have Javon Bullard activated, and he'll be in the slot. If that's the case, now CeeDee Lamb being out, you're not as worried because he did play a lot of the slot and a lot of that flex type receiver role, right? But again, just I would much rather have Nate Hobbs in the slot. That's just me. 2nd-round pick though, and Javon Bullard going to be hard to keep him off the field, right? That's essentially what the way GMs look at it and coaches look at it is, all right, he's a second round pick as opposed to a seventh round pick. So, not saying I agree with it though. So that's how I would approach that in the secondary. Again, our secondary is playing good ball outside of Javon Bullard, according to PFF. We'll see how that goes though. So, and then special teams. I know it's a hot button topic. Pretty blanket statements here. Secure returns. The Packers should prioritize solid blocking and secure returns to give the offense favorable field position. Listen, don't muff the punt. If there's any doubt, let that. I would rather them down it on the 3 than us muff a punt. Or last week there was something about happened where one of the kick cover guys almost ran one of our guys. I think it was Keyshawn almost got ran into the ball as Matthew Golden yelled Peter, right? So let's play that stuff safe. This is not the week to be aggressive on special teams. The last thing you want to do is when you look at this matchup and these teams line up and you go, man, Packers seem to have the advantage here. The last thing you want to do is tilt out field in the Cowboys' direction off of special teams gaps, right? And then, of course, avoid mistakes. With both teams missing key players, special teams blunders could be a deciding factor. Packers must avoid costly penalties and ensure clean execution on kicks and punts. That goes for every week, right? That's what I'm saying. They're pretty blanket statements, but that's how I see that, guys. So that's my defensive game plan for stopping the Cowboys. I want to come back to this. If we're playing with a lead, look for these concepts. Strike concept out of 12 personnel. They ain't afraid to show a stretch look out of the fake. And then you got these Trey Wright looks where they're going to look to dink and dunk Ferguson as they spread the defense out. You see the Giants in this specific situation, or in this specific play, we're playing a shell look. When you hear us say shell, that just means they got 2 safeties on the shelf. That's what that means. That's called shell coverage. Okay, even though these guys may rotate down, that's a shell look, and that deters quarterbacks from throwing deep. So what do you do in this play? Right, they're playing a shell look, ball snap, he checks it down to Ferguson. That's essentially what it's designed to do. Again, the 12-gun dub nasty crossers, look for the crosser concept. You can really eliminate that, guys. You can really eliminate the crosser concept by just staying away from cover 1 man. If you want to go with a cover 2 man, show a spur look with a safety in the box and then have him drop out and have a cover 2 man. I would much rather you do that than play a cover 1 man. The problem there is it's not really a problem, to be honest with you. McKinney has done it time and time again, playing zone defense and getting back. I was going to say, if you're playing a cover 2 man, you're really, really vulnerable to the run. But if you're playing with a spur pre-snap look with the safety in the box and then he sinks out, you don't have to worry about that. They can still meet that run fit. You just got to be very careful on those play fakes. Don't get caught pulled up. And now your corner's playing trail technique, expecting a safety over the top, and he's down there trying to fit the B gap. That's me no likey that, Jan, right? So there you go. That's just, like I said, a detailed look. Man, I like the Packers' chances here on this game, guys. Again, there's no slam dunk in the NFL. You guys know how this goes. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. So you got to be really, really careful with this stuff. Don't play scared, but go out there and play your game. Jordan Love is playing great football. He had essentially, in my opinion, 2 bad snaps last week. That's all I seen from Jordan. You seen the 3rd and 1 where they should have let the clock run out at the end of the 3rd. I kind of blame Matt. Matt shouldn't even gave him a situation or an opportunity to go out there and try to run a last-second play. Hey, I'll let you make the decision. No, Matt, you're the head coach. Let the clock run out. You've got a lead, a 7-point lead against a team that hasn't been able to sniff the end zone all day long. Let's play it safe here. Run it on a 3rd and 3. If we don't get the first down, punt that thing away, and then we'll see if they can go score. But again, that was the last play of the 3rd quarter. He ends up taking a sack, Jordan did, right? So in that specific situation, that was a mistake. Both can be blamed. Also, the interception, both can be blamed. But I put more blame on Jordan than I do Matt, right? In that 3rd and short situation, you should have ran the freaking football, right? If I was Matt in that situation, same thing applies as what I talked about the last play of the 3rd quarter. Listen, just go out there and run the foot. If you can't get 3 yards to pick up a first down, okay, and then you punt the ball and you make them go the entire field to score a touchdown to beat you, and they do it, you wasn't the better team, but you outsmarted yourself, right? You went out there and you allowed him to check to a man beater. And that man beater was the tosser concept, right? The tosser with the cross corner out of the Y. And what happened? They read it from earlier in the day. It worked good. So Jordan went back to the well one time too often there, right? So Jordan's got to know you can't throw that freaking football there. You just got to know that. And all he's looking at is Wicks, who just torches his guy. So in his eyes, it's man coverage. We got a man beater called. Pick your shot of the 2 targets on the left, whether it's the 1 or the 2. The tosser concept is essentially 2 slants, right? Wicks beats his guy. He doesn't even look under. Just take a little side eye. You know Wicks is going to win. Just take a little side eye. Look at the drop. Okay. Oh crap, he's there. Let me lob it up on the cross corner. Or even better yet, how about roll right, take a sack? In that situation, the clock continues to run. You run off 40 seconds. You punt it away. That would be better, in my opinion, because you're essentially taking away 3 plays from the Browns on offense. Those downs and that time on the clock, it ends up equating to something like 6 or 7 seconds per play. So when you can run 40 seconds off the clock, yeah, I mean, you do the math. Let's say it's 5 plays. And what I mean by is by the end of the game, when they're going no huddle and trying to go the length of the field, you've reduced their chances of winning by 5 plays, guys. That's astronomical when you got an offense that struggled as much as the Browns did. So I don't know if all that makes sense or not, but that's kind of where I'm at there. Let's dive into one more thing and then we'll wrap up here. Appreciate y'all hanging out. If you would, and again, the people watching this video later on, let us know in the comments what you think. All right. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. But let us know what you think about that defensive game plan. Let me know what you disagree about. Let me know some stuff I missed. And let me know if you do agree too. It's nice to hear some agreement every now and again as well. God knows we need that if you spend any time on Twitter. All right. Week 4, Packers at the Cowboys. Last look here. And again, we're going live tomorrow. I may do a morning stream early in the morning, and then we'll definitely be doing a pregame show, no doubt. But I may wake up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, and you guys see me go live somewhere between, I don't know, 8 and 12 or something like that. We might catch a little bit of the Vikings game together if y'all want to root against them. Aaron Rodgers against the Vikings, I believe, is the game early in the morning. So, all right, Packers at the Cowboys. Last look. Just a couple of key statistics came across X earlier. Quarterback matchup. You see Jordan Love here. It says 2025 stats. So 67.9 completion percentage. Dak Prescott's got him beat at a 71.4. So Dak is playing very, very, very efficient here, okay? 663 yards passing for Jordan Love, 800 for Dak. Now, here's where Jordan's separating himself. 5 touchdown passes to Dak's 3. Jordan's thrown 1 interception. Dak has thrown 3. Okay, so again, he's going to give you an opportunity, especially when they're trailing. They're getting really, really antsy. They're getting very, very desperate throwing into 7-man coverages, right? So look for those interceptions. Again, I love the way Jordan's protected the football outside of that one mistake last week. When you look at the PFF grades, once again, Dak Prescott, second highest graded quarterback at a 90.2. Jordan Love is sitting in the 7th spot at a 79.6. Also, Sleeper Packers tweeted this out, thought it was interesting. Jordan Love, the last time he played the Cowboys down in Jerry World, he was 16 of 21 for 76.2% completion percentage, 272 passing yards with 3 passing touchdowns, 0 picks, 0 sacks, a 157.2 passer rating, okay, and or QBR or whatever it is in that case, and he got that playoff victory. Now, it's worth mentioning, when this game happened, Dan Quinn, who is now the head coach of the Washington Commanders, was the defensive coordinator. They play a whole lot of cover one man. Okay, they play a lot of man coverage in general. They show some zero looks as well. Now you've got Matt Eberflus in Dallas. Guys, I don't think I have the coverage. Actually, I got it right here. Let's pop it up real quick. Look at what they're doing, guys. When you look at the Cowboys coverage here, is it at the bottom covered up? Where is it at? I think it might be because their EPA per drop back is absolute cheeks. Yeah, down there, covered up by the ticker. They're next to last in EPA per drop back, giving up a positive 0.40. Guys, that is horrendous. Horrendous EPA per drop back. Look at what defense they're running, though. 43% cover 3, 26% cover 2, 14% cover 4, 6% cover 6. They're only playing 3% man coverage, 2% cover 1 man, and 1% cover 0, which is basically an all-out blitz man coverage across the board. They have played less than 1% of cover 2 man. What's that tell you? Even though, the reason I bring this up, even though these stats right here look nice for Jordan the last time we were in Dallas, different defense. Now he's facing a cover 3 zone heavy look. Kind of leans towards get the running game going. Our running game struggled. Dallas is, I think, 9th in yards per carry allowed. So they've got a stronger run defense than they do pass defense. So you just got to be a little bit careful here. If they're going to play a lot of zone coverage, let's get some bubble screens going. Let's get some smoke screens going on the outside. If they're not matching up and they're not playing man align, let's take advantage of that spacing out there. Let's win that hat count battle. And then, of course, pass rush comparison. The Packers are 3rd in pass rush grade, according to PFF. The Cowboys pass blocking grade 31st. So Just bring 4, man. Just bring 4. Don't get cute. Bring 4. Show that coffee house look, right? That double A gap mug, double barrel mug look, and drop those guys out and make Dak make these mistakes that you're looking for. Okay, so hopefully all that makes sense. And again, just wanted to mention the Packers did elevate offensive line Lasita Smith to the game day roster, which obviously we are going to be missing. Anthony Belton is officially ruled out. He hurt his ankle, I think, on Wednesday. I believe they said it was in practice. Zach Tom will be out with the oblique as well. Okay. Rasheed Walker was full participation, so that helps a little bit. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else. I think that's the only 2 that we've got. Well, I'm sorry, Aaron Banks with the groin. He's doubtful. So you're probably going to be down 3 starting offensive linemen. How do you combat that problem? Short passing game, RPO. That's a way that you can simultaneously get the running game going and still attack with the pass in this zone-heavy defense, right? So I would like to see a lot more gun than under center. That's me personally. I would lean away from 12 personnel a little bit than you have in the past. You notice the first half of the game against Cleveland, they came out and played a lot of 12 personnel. Second half, they adjusted, went to 11 personnel. They were more effective, right? So that's the way I would approach that personally. Hopefully all that makes sense. And that's all I got, guys. I see the chat was lit up, man. I hate going solo because we can't include you guys as much as I want to. I don't think I missed any super chats or anything there. If you guys, it looks like we didn't have any, so that's good. That makes me feel a little bit better. I didn't want y'all to just be sitting on those in there. But, really, really appreciate everybody. This was a lot of fun. So we will be back tomorrow, all right? If everything goes as planned, I may go live during the Vikings game, like I mentioned. You guys are wondering, what are you talking about tomorrow morning Vikings game? So tomorrow morning, I want to make sure it is the Vikings. I couldn't check to see if anybody confirmed it in there. Vikings week 4. Yeah. So it's going to be 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So 8:30 Lambeau time. Okay. It's going to be the Vikings and the Steelers, and they're playing in Ireland. So what we may do is go live while they're live and give you guys scoring updates and just talk a little Packers Cowboys, hang out in there, have a cup of coffee and talk some ball. We will definitely be going live for the pregame show 1 hour before kickoff, and then immediately following the Packers Cowboys game, we'll be going live for the postgame show as well. So that's it, guys. That's all we got. Please, please, please. Respect oranges. Maybe Irish coffee. I don't know, man. Of course, Mandy is out of town. Mandy went to chat tonight, so might be a good morning to break out the old Irish coffee. We might do that, man. We'll see. Greg Rice. What's up, man? Love it. All right. We're out, guys. See y'all tomorrow. Make sure you hit like for me if you're new here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. But please, please, please hit that subscribe. Click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Stay safe out there. And do me a favor, man. Go root on my Kentucky Wildcats. They're 2-1. They're playing South Carolina. Looks like it's tied at 7 right now in the first quarter. Let's see if these Kentucky Rednecks can pull out a dub down there in South Kakalaki. So everybody have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. There we go.
Bye, guys.